I may be talking for a minute. I don't know if I'm going to have a coughing fit, so we're going to hit the inhaler preemptively here. So, turn the fan off here. So, I've had COVID. I've been in quarantine since the middle of, or close to the middle end of November. I spent the last week in November basically bedridden. And I just want to tell everybody, from day one of symptoms to where I am now on December 1st, how this hit me, and how how my symptoms manifested, and what the good days felt like, what the bad days felt like. I am a little hoarse today. That's a new one. Haven't felt any kind of hoarse or loss of voice this entire time. So this one's new. But we need to start back on, I guess that would have been the 16th of November. So we're about halfway through the month. And my roommate mentions that he's not feeling well. Now, I've been working from home. My gym has gone, I live in Washington State, so our lockdown restrictions were extended. So the gym was closed, so I hadn't been able to go to the gym in a few weeks. Minimal contact outside, just going in and, getting groceries and things like that. And I don't want this to sound like it's an alarmist of like, hey, even if you're doing everything right, you can still get it. It's, you need to make sure you're doing everything right, but you have to hope that other people are going to be as cautious as you are, because somehow my roommate was infected, and he didn't know. And we don't know if he got it from work. We don't know if he got it, maybe he walked by somebody who had it just in passing. But on November, sorry, I have the calendar over here. On November 16th, my roommate started feeling very, very unwell. And so he went and got tested that morning. Sunday night into Monday morning. He got his results back on that Wednesday, which was the 18th. Now, by the 18th, I had started to develop a very mild headache. And around this time of year, I typically get sinus infections. So I thought maybe it's connected to that. I'll keep an eye on symptoms, but I'm confident it's just my sinus infection. And that's what I kept telling myself. When that Thursday and Friday, my congestion was getting worse and the pressure in my sinuses was getting worse. Then the clearing of my throat all throughout that weekend. So that would have been the 20th and through the 22nd, I'm having to clear my throat. My nasal cavity felt like it's on fire from the pressure of my sinuses. My headache felt like it was going to split my head open. And then Monday morning, I have to call my boss and tell him I am coughing so hard, and I'm running, it feels like a low-grade fever. My roommate has tested positive for COVID. I need to go get tested. And my boss says, okay. So I called out of work on that Monday. And after getting everything taken care of, which in my experience, because I use a virtual doctor for my care provider, so that way I can minimize where I go out. Because I use one of those. I was able to get tested, but getting the results back, I actually didn't find out I was positive until just a few days ago. And today's December 1st, and I was tested on the 17th is when I officially got my test results submitted. So, good time there. But I did end up testing positive. And for those first few days, it just felt like a really bad cold, really bad flu, rather. Difference between the cold bug and influenza. But it hurt to breathe, but it wasn't like deep in the chest. It just felt easier taking shallow breaths. Like I just done with a really long run, finishing a marathon or something like that. And I've done a few distance run events. I used to be an athlete in high school. I do like Bloomsday here in my area. When I work out, I do about an hour of cardio every day. So it's not like I'm used to, or not used to that burning lung feeling of when you're having to take those deep breaths when you're recovering. And, I'm a weightlifter, so I'm used to the feeling of what muscle tears like when you're strength training. So those first few days, I felt like just had a really bad flu. And then the coughing started so much harder. So this would have been around the 18th or the 19th. I was coughing so hard I wasn't sleeping. I actually had managed to tear the pectoral muscles across my sternum. So my entire upper chest feels like it's on fire. Like I just got done doing a bunch of bench press. It doesn't hurt to cough anymore. But basically for that first week, the idea of coughing was awful because I knew I was going to be in pain, and I wasn't sleeping because of it. I was having to take shallow breaths to avoid coughing. And it wasn't until I think it would have been, I gotta look at the calendar here. This would have probably been done around the 28th, I believe. Yeah, because my first doctor I saw, he prescribed me with medication to prevent any potential pneumonia. And that was about it. Then the second time I saw him, he realized, he gave me, a sinus strip first. And then he gave me something for pneumonia. And then an antibiotic. Because he thought I was developing pneumonia. Because at this point, we did not have my results back. So we had to treat it as, possibly COVID, but what else could it be? Or what could COVID turn into, or other complications? Then I saw my next doctor on the 28th. And she prescribed me, this would have been, I believe this was the 28th, because I saw my first doctor again on Thanksgiving Day, the 26th of November. So at this point, I had been 10 days isolated and not getting better. And then they prescribed me an inhaler because I was having to breathe like this. And that's the only breathing I could do from the 17th, 18th through whenever it was I got my inhaler, which I believe would have been that Saturday. I can take deep breaths again, which feels amazing because every time I would take a deep breath before, I was coughing up so much crap. It was awful. But we don't know how long I'm going to be on this inhaler. I am 29 years old. No history of asthma. I was really young. I had some lung issues, but those have been cleared and forgotten about for, 2 decades now. And I'm a non-smoker. I mean, I might be a little overweight, but I don't eat like garbage. I eat, lots of vegetables, eat lots of fruit. I don't drink sugary soda. I don't drink sugary juice. It's mostly water and coffee is what I drink, and tea. So yeah, I may be a little bit on the heavier side, but I'm not unhealthy. Like I said, non-smoker. I don't drink that often. No diabetes or anything like that. And I feel like I used to be 360 pounds, and that's how my lungs feel again. And I'm hoping that this is not a long-term thing, but if it is, that's just my new normal now, unfortunately. Which is one of the scary things about a novel virus, is novel means new. So we do not know what it's going to do to the long term. I could be very fortunate, and once I'm off of my medications for I'm on a steroid and I believe it's still an antibiotic. I just finished the pneumonia medication this morning, but I have 2 more medicines I'm working through, plus the inhaler. Never lost my sense of taste. That was fine. But I'm going to go through some of the symptoms now that I've felt basically from day one. And it's going to get a little gross here. So I'll start with the less gross ones. I had the sinus headache, and I had the sinus pressure, sore throat, runny nose, and the cough. Easy enough. Your cold and flu symptoms. Next after that, though, was the fever. My fever was never consistent. It fluctuated quite a bit. At my lowest fever, it was about 99.9. That's when they would consider it a low-grade fever, because there's a little bit of wiggle room. For context, I normally run about average inner body temperature of about 97.6, so that was very warm for me. My oxygen consistently remained good. That's one of the reasons I didn't have to go to the hospital. I was lent a pulse oximeter. And the way this works is it has an infrared light in there, and you put it on your finger and just breathe. And as long as this number comes back as at or above 95, that means you're getting enough blood oxygen. So I'm at 96 right now, but I'm talking, so 97. So that's good. So that was never something I had to worry about. Never lost my sense of taste. But I did get the body aches along with the fever. And the body aches ran from, maybe it felt like almost like a recovery day from a workout on the good days. On the bad days, I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it to the bathroom because I was in so much pain just to move. Thankfully, never had a problem with it. I thought I was going to have a couple close calls there, but, I made it. Thankfully, it's just the next room over for me. But it hurt that much to move that the alternative to me moving was, making a mess of myself. And that almost was more appealing than having to get up. Just yesterday, actually. Today's the 1st, and it's the best I felt since my diagnosis. But yesterday, the 30th of November, I could not move. My body aches were so bad, and my fever had come back. The highest my fever had gotten was 101, but because it did not stay consistently at a high fever because it fluctuated as much as it did, and I'm still getting good oxygen. Doctor said, do what you can at home, but if you feel like you need to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. So thankfully, I never had to go to the hospital, at least at this point. We're now 15 days into my COVID experience, and I have not had to go to the hospital outside of the initial test, which wasn't that bad, honestly. It's like, I got my thermometer here. They stick it about yay far up your nostril, and they kind of just give it a swab. I didn't have to do the one where they try and tickle the back of your eyeballs, thankfully. Then the body aches, they come and go. I'm having a good day today. I woke up a little sore, but today for the most part, I haven't had any body aches. But that could change tomorrow. It could change, 2 days from now, because like I said, the body aches, they come and go. Now they're normally pretty consistent at a mild ache. Today has been nothing, so I'm hoping I'm over the body aches. The other one that is just so bizarre to me was there were times where I was either too hot, but not running a fever, too cold, not running a fever, or my chest and my legs and feet were cold, but my hands, my arms, and my face were on fire. So as I'm trying to warm up my upper body and legs, my hands and my face, I'm trying to cool off. So last night, I ended up running a bit of a fever, 99, 100 degrees, something like that. But, yeah, good stuff. But I had to sleep with a wet rag over my face and my hands like this to try and fall asleep. So that way my hands and my face would cool off, but the rest of my body could warm up under the 2 blankets I was under. No nausea, thankfully. No vomiting, but I have had quite a bit of diarrhea. That is not a fun symptom to have, especially when you don't know if you're going to be able to make it to the bathroom. Like I said, that was not a pleasant experience. Thankfully, didn't have to suffer those consequences, but There's a bunch of other, and if this feels like it's very disjointed, another symptom that is, another two symptoms rather, that kind of go in tandem together are, I am so tired because of the lack of sleep I've been getting. So I've been very fatigued on top of the exhaustion of my body physically. Mentally, I've shut off so many times in this last 15 days. And I've been in a brain fog off and on. Like day before yesterday, my grandparents called me, and I saw the phone call, and I saw the voicemail, and I listened to the voicemail, and it was about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and I sat there thinking thinking there's something I need to do about this. It didn't dawn on me until 6 p.m. the next day. Oh, I need to call them. That's what I need to be doing. Then there's times where I just lay there and try to rest, but I can't because I was coughing so hard. And I thought, it couldn't have been more than 20 minutes. I had laid there in miserable conditions for, 3 or 4 hours. A couple of nights ago, I got off the phone with my girlfriend, letting her how I'm doing. And it was probably close to 10 p.m. And I thought, this is a good time to go to sleep. And I don't remember falling asleep. But my Fitbit's like, no, dude, you fell asleep at like 4 a.m. and you were tossing and turning and coughing, and because it's like you got terrible sleep. And I only got like 4 hours of sleep. So you take the muscle aches, you take the body aches, you take the fever, you take the lack of sleep. And, when you're not feeling well, your head's all over the place anyway. There are entire days I don't remember of my quarantine. In fact, one of the ways I'm trying to keep myself engaged and mentally paying attention to things is I'm binge watching things on Netflix I haven't watched before. So that way I'm focusing on something. So I'm not so much using, I did, this was the passage of time. It was what happened in this episode of Star Trek, what happened in this documentary or something like that. It's been an experience. I am very, very fortunate in the fact that I haven't had to be hospitalized. That I am feeling like I'm finally recovering 15 days after the initial, when I realized, oh crap, this might be more than a sinus infection. So realistically, let's go back to the calendar here again. I've been sick for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Today is 14 days that I've been sick, 2 weeks. And I'm finally starting to feel better. But even now, I can feel myself getting warm again. I can feel myself starting to sweat a little bit. So that's a good sign, because that usually means the body aches are about to come back. And I really hope they don't. But it's just been such an ordeal. And again, I was doing everything right. And this is the big takeaway I want people to really, really understand is I'm a 29-year-old healthy male, and I was doing everything right. I was practicing social distancing. I was wearing a mask, hand sanitizer, and hand wipes in the car. When I got home, wash my hands, wash any of my food before I cook it. If I brought home something that I was worried had been exposed to anything, I wiped it down before it even got in the house, in the car. I wiped down the car, cleaned out the car constantly. And just because you're doing everything right doesn't mean that the person next to you is. And we don't know what got my roommate sick or who got my roommate sick. But that's how quickly this thing tore through my apartment. Was my roommate was, he had worked a couple of days that week. By that weekend, he's not feeling well. That Monday, he's getting tested. By that Thursday, I'm showing symptoms. So in the span of 4 days, it was simple as that, because because my roommate and I have different schedules. So he's usually in bed by the time I'm home, or by the time I'm out of my bedroom for work, or I'm going to bed when he's out in the front room. So it's like we had only a small window of opportunity to engage with each other close enough for the virus to spread, and it did. When I finally am given the all clear, my next step is I have to do a deep disinfecting of my room. I have to clear as much of it as I can, because this room has basically just become a giant aerosol container of my cough, as gross as that is. So that's going to be fun. Not looking forward to that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than, you may think you're invincible. But when it comes to the coronavirus, SARS novel coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't give a damn who you are. And I'm very, very fortunate that COVID did not put me in the hospital, even though there were days I felt like I was going to die. Like not realistically knowing, oh crap, this is it. It was more like death may be a better alternative to how I felt. And that's not an exaggeration. And if I was one of the people who was very fortunate enough to be able to recover at home, what does that tell you about the poor bastards who caught this virus in ways where, they're on, having to have tubes up their nose so that way they can breathe, or, having to be on a ventilator because they can't breathe. Or the people who are on life support who weren't able to make it. A cousin of mine actually passed away from the virus. Mom's cousin, more specifically. But, I've had family who have died from this virus. I have friends who have lost loved ones to the virus. I've had friends who have had the virus. And, that's the scary reality is there's so many people in this world who have been impacted by this, that the best thing we can do until a vaccine is available is we need to come together. We need to stay apart, is what I mean. We have to collectively come together and say to ourselves, until the vaccine is widespread available. And that's the other thing, is it has to be taken by 75 to 90% of people. The statistics I haven't been able to keep up with too much. Currently brain fog fever, couldn't do much. But I believe as last statistic I saw was about 75 to 89% of the population would have to take the vaccine for an effective herd immunity. And I don't know what people like me who've gone through the virus, I don't know how my body will react to a vaccine now. Maybe I could take the vaccine. Maybe I'm no longer viable because we don't know how long I'm immune for. There are cases of people who have caught it once and their antibodies are still there. There are people who caught it once, and I actually have a friend who caught the virus 2 times. I have one friend, she caught it back in May and is still fighting these symptoms. Her doctor just recently said that she's probably going to be listed as somebody who now has a chronic illness. That's just the reality of this. But we need to come together and say, until the vaccine is available, we got to social distance. You've got to wear a mask. You've got to make sure you're washing your hands. And you've got to stop being selfish. Because here's what happened when you took me out of this equation. My grandmother and my aunt are both elderly women. My grandmother cannot drive due to being legally blind. My aunt is recovering from surgery. As they are both high-risk candidates for death if they catch the coronavirus, and that is not an exaggeration. I have been taking care of all their grocery shopping since Washington State went into pandemic lockdown, back in March. And by taking me out of that system, you've now limited 2 people on a point of contact on how to take care of themselves, or getting somebody to take care of them. Now, thankfully, we have family in the area, but now everybody else's schedules have to slide over a little bit until I'm better. And my mother has MS. My father's diabetic, both which could cause complications. So now, because my sister, who is a nurse, who is constantly exposed to the virus and may or may not get sick, we don't know, but because she's working as much as she is, she can't step out and do things as often as anybody else can. So now it's up to my mother, who has multiple sclerosis, and my father, who is diabetic, to now step out and do the grocery shopping for my grandmother and my aunt. So they are now exposing themselves to the world longer. So by interrupting one point of contact, me, you now have, who had no pre-existing conditions, of the group of us, the one with the most free time to spread out the shopping for everybody, the one who can do all the extra things for mom and dad, grandma and my aunt, even my sister. I'm now out of that loop until I'm better. So now you have two elderly people who may not get their groceries on time, may not get prescriptions on time. You've got my parents in their 50s, both with pre-existing conditions that could, maybe turn for the worse if they catch coronavirus. And now there's me, who is having to sit here and try to keep my family sane, letting them know I'm okay while I'm worrying about how, me being out of the picture is hurting them too. It's hard. The mental strain of this virus is just as bad as any of the physical conditions I've listed. And I couldn't even look at my girlfriend last night. When we talk, we usually do a video call. And I told her I just need to hear her voice because that makes me feel better. But I can't do a video call because the condition I was in yesterday, I literally felt like I was dying. And that's not an exaggeration. I was laying on my stomach because it felt so much more comfortable to just kind of let my body collapse onto my lungs, because everything hurt. And I hope that is the last of my bad days. But we do not know. And until we do know, we gotta listen to what people say. Listen to doctors. Don't listen to politicians when it comes to things like this. Your politicians are going to, and you know what? If your politician is siding with doctors, go for it. If your politician is siding with anybody but a doctor, you need to be listening to somebody else. You listen to people like Dr. Fauci, professional. His job is he is a medical doctor when it comes to diseases. Listen to help. If you have to listen to an internet personality, go listen to Dr. Mike. But don't listen to doctors, people. Don't listen to politicians. Again, unless the politician is also backing what doctors are saying, and that usually means they're getting their information from a good source. But if you have to, I guarantee you can reach out to somebody on Facebook, on Twitter, on any social media platform. Maybe not Parler because they're kind of awful, but reach out and say, hey, has anybody had COVID? Can you tell me what your symptoms were like? And you know what? Ask them, did they have to go to the hospital? Were they able to recover at home? If you recovered at home, what did it feel like? Because the easiest thing I can describe this as, if you really need to break it down, not listening to all those symptoms I just listed for you, is it felt like, or it still feels like, I'm having a dance with pneumonia. We're not sure who's leading yet. It could go either way. But I've had pneumonia before, and I've had pneumonia pretty bad, and this ranks up there with the best of it. But I didn't want to sit here and rant for 30 minutes about my COVID experience or where I'm at, 2 weeks into my exposure and my issues with it. But, I've been asked by a few friends, how am I doing and things like that. And they were like, well, maybe you should tell people what your COVID was like or what it is like while I'm still going through it. So I figured, what the hell? The short answer is it's awful. I don't wish this on anybody. And if this is a mild to non-severe case, again, I can only say God help the people who have it worse. The people in the hospital, especially on the ventilators. I'm very fortunate. I didn't need that, at least as of yet. But I don't know what else to say, really. At this point, if you're still ignoring what everybody is telling you and you see this video and you think, you know what, I still don't need to be safe. I'm invincible. The short answer is no, you're not. you're just selfish. And the sooner people realize that thinking that they're invincible is just an act of carelessness and selfishness, not just for them, but for everybody around them, the sooner things will hopefully turn around. But yeah, that's just all I wanted to say on the matter. It's getting kind of late. I'm going to probably try to get to sleep. I'm really surprised I actually didn't end up coughing as much as I did. So the inhaler must be working. But stay safe, everyone.